job worth doing is worth doing using the right tools. It's so much easier on your back. So, if you're going to be using your back, ask yourself, is there a tool for that?
I can.
I can.
I can.
I can.
I did.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Out of the Fog. Well, tonight we're actually going to take you outside the studio and over to St. John Ambulance, one of Canada's oldest charitable organizations whose community service is far-reaching through the large contingent of trained volunteers across the province who recognize and respond to community-based health and safety needs, along with a number of community service programs like first aid and AED training, emergency response, and therapy dog service. Now, tonight I'm going to introduce you to their CEO, Glenda Janes, to dig a little deeper into an organization that truly makes a difference in the lives of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. We're going to take a very short break right now, but we'll be right back with our profile on St. John Ambulance. Stay right there.
I got your back, big guy. Join us in our mission to help protect backs at work.
Help! Help!
Somebody call 911.
He's not breathing.
Please, anybody.
Does anybody know first aid?
Son, I'm a paramedic. We need to know what you're allergic to.
Ma'am, can you tell me where you live?
Sir, have you been taking heart medication?
Do you have any allergies we should know about?
Can you tell me who to call?
If you're unconscious, you can't answer the simple questions that could save your life.
Great. He's wearing medic alert. Noah, everything's gonna be okay.
Medic alert. Speaks for you when you can't.
Welcome back to Out of the Fog. Well, we're going to take you outside the studio now and over to the offices of St. John Ambulance, where I met up with the CEO for the Newfoundland and Labrador Council, Glenda Janes, to talk about this long-standing and deeply rooted community organization that enables people like you to improve your health, safety, and quality of life through training and community service. Here's that conversation. Well, Glenda, so great to sit down here with you and chat about St. John Ambulance today. Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you for having us today, Erin.
Yeah, so I guess we should start off talking about St. John Ambulance, who you are and what you do, if you could tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, St. John Ambulance is one of the oldest humanitarian organizations in the world, actually. We operate in over 40 countries around the world, and we provide a fairly broad level of community activities, mostly related to healthcare and the types of needs in the community would dictate what kinds of programs we offer. So it's very varied around the world. And in Canada, we've been around since 1883, and in Newfoundland since 1910. So we have a fair amount of experience delivering services to communities.
Right. So very interesting in terms of the extensive history.
Yes.
Of St. John Ambulance.
Yeah.
And just tell me, because a lot of people actually call it St. John's Ambulance and not St. John Ambulance, so I think they sometimes think that it is specific here to our community.
Yeah, you're right. It's quite a common mistake right across the country, but more prevalent certainly because we live in the city of St. John's. So we are an old organization, and when we did start many, many years ago, we did offer ambulance services in Canada and definitely in Newfoundland and Labrador. So just like some of the other community organizations that are quite old, our name does sort of depict that we drive ambulances and we're paramedics, but we definitely do focus on para-hospital types of activities like medical first response. So the role of our volunteers and what we train Newfoundlanders and Labradorians in is how to intervene in emergency situations while you're waiting for emergency help to arrive. So.
Right. So tell me a little bit more about the programs that are offered.
Right. So we train about 23,000 Newfoundlanders and Labradorians every year in first aid.
23,000
23,000
That's a
people.
very high number of people.
It is, and we're always striving to increase that number because, of course, everybody should know how to intervene in an emergency situation, because emergencies can happen to anybody, anywhere. So yes, we train in medical first response. Our most popular courses, of course, would be emergency and standard first aid, and they're 1- and 2-day courses. And then CPR and automated external defibrillation, known as AED, is offered in all of our courses now.
So in terms of, I want to get back to that number, in terms of the 23,000 people, like I said, that's just to me, that strikes me as a large amount of people, and you always obviously want to train more and more people throughout Newfoundland and Labrador. Tell me, how much has that grown, though, over the years?
It's grown significantly, you know, speaking for the last several years that I've been involved in the organization. We've grown from about 15,000 people a year in this province to what we said, about 23,000. And in Canada, we train about almost 600,000 Canadians annually in first aid and CPR. And the majority of those individuals traditionally would have been sent for training by their workplaces. And of course, occupational health and safety has become quite popular and quite inherent in our workplaces. But also, generally, people are much more aware of their surroundings these days and the importance of intervening and knowing what to do when you're called upon.
Right. So you think that education has definitely been put out there kind of more now in terms of people's awareness as to how important it is to have it?
Yeah, for sure. And I would also say that living in a province like Newfoundland and Labrador with such a rural focus, whether it's at your cottage or your cabin or, you know, the tourism, there's lots of people now who are offering, you know, tourist types of activities. It's important to know because you could be, you know, 20 minutes to 2 or 3 hours from getting that medical response that you need. So you really need to know what to do and have the right first aid kit or the right equipment. Most of this now is extremely easy to use, and we train people obviously what to do and how to use the materials we have available.
In terms of the training, so you train both in urban and rural areas?
Yeah, we have a network of about 320 instructors and partner providers across the province. So our delivery network is very mature in terms of where we are in the province. And we have 2 facilities. So we train from our Mount Pearl facility is our largest facility. And as well, we have an office in Corner Brook. So the way we've enabled people to have access to programs and services is through our partner providers. So we have about 120 partner providers. They could be businesses, training institutions themselves, or individuals that have their own healthcare service businesses.
When we pulled up here this morning, the parking lot was absolutely blocked, and we came in and the hallways were filled with people. So it seems like you have a very busy day here at the facility with lots of training.
Yes, we do. So when people call or register online through the website, or obviously we have someone here who answers the phone all the time, then they register, they come in on the day they register for. It's either a 1-day course, a 2-day course, it could be a 5-day marine advanced course, and they come in, they do a combination throughout the day of theory and practical sessions. And that's a really important part of the training that we deliver, Erin, is actually practicing the skills that you've learned or watched in the video. So there's a significant part of your day that involves actually using the ACTAR, they're the mannequins we use, or actually using a defibrillator, a trainer, all kinds of props. You actually actually get to practice on your co-students in the classroom and learn how to put on a bandage. So that's what happens. And happy to say that we do have a huge demand for the training, and we actually moved to this facility 5 years ago, and we fill 3 classrooms almost every day. So there's 65 to 70 people here on a daily basis, which is great. And again, throughout the province, we have many partner providers that also deliver through their classrooms and facilities.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me, in terms of, if I was to go and sign up online, or if I was to call you, a particular age that you have to be to take these courses?
Yeah, so we recommend that you're 16 years old, but we have had students as young as 14. So really, as long as you're old enough to comprehend and understand, at a grade 8 reading level is what we say. But quite often, we're very flexible, and I think that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, is that we get presented with a scenario, and while we do have protocols around minimum ages and that, we will work with people to provide as much training as we can or as they need it.
In terms of there's a cost associated for, to sign up for the training. Where does that money go?
Yeah, so we filter all of our revenues go back into supporting our volunteer activities, which it's such a nice organization to be part of, because every time someone registers for a course or purchases a defibrillator, they're actually supporting their community and the volunteer work that we do. So for example, the therapy dogs that you see at various community events or in facilities, that's supported by the revenues from first aid training. Our medical first responder volunteers, our youth programs, all of that's totally supported. We filter everything back into our community events.
Tell me about because you have 2 core programs that you have.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about those.
Right. So our medical first responder volunteers are the individuals that some of us would see at Mile 1 events.
I've seen them at the Ice Caps games, yes.
So the Ice Caps games are a huge event that we support, and these volunteers are trained in a medical first responder course. It takes them 40 hours to do that course before they're able to go out and do what we call as duty. And we have about 300 of those volunteers throughout the province. Mostly, they go out, they do 541 community duties and activities a year. So these are events where we would have anywhere from 6 to 12 medical first responder volunteers. So it's a tremendous amount. I'm always so proud when I look at the numbers and then I realize exactly how much coordination and how much training and the dedication of those individuals, to stand at a hockey rink or to stand at a festival or a music event. Some of them are a lot of fun, but if you get the odd day where it could be raining, it's probably a bit of a long day.
But you have, when you touch on the dedication, you have a large contingent of volunteers who do truly dedicate a lot of their time.
Yeah, one of the great things about St. John and the volunteers that we have is that we have very little turnover. Once someone has come to volunteer with us, quite often they stay for a very long time. But having said that, we still always have lots of new recruits that come in. So there's a real nice mix of maturity and experience, and then you have the new people coming in that are just very intrigued by the whole training piece and what they can actually do for their communities.
Right. So people obviously sign up for various reasons.
They do. Some of them it's because they want to go into a medical field. We have quite a few physicians actually who are working in emergency rooms throughout the country and indeed into the States. And they did start their volunteer work as emergency or medical first responders with St. John. And they're still involved today. And then we have people who are retired. They could be retired nurses, engineers, accountants. We have people from all walks of life, and definitely from 18 years old to 75 years old. So.
Elaborate a little bit more on the actual training that volunteers receive and how much that they, I guess, need to do before they actually step out into, a festival or a particular event.
Right. So they're trained in the same types of, skills that you would receive in a 2-day course. And then, of course, they are trained beyond that level. So oxygen, how to do advanced care, spinal, immobilization, those types of advanced activities, that they would need to be able to deal with a casualty until medical help arrives, and then to be able to transfer that casualty to medical help with all the right information. So again, their paperwork is very important, and how they intervene is again done with quite a tremendous level of detail and care.
What do you think that says about our community here in Newfoundland and Labrador when you look at the volunteer base that you have and the dedication that you have to, for people to essentially, avail of this training, but to know that they're there to save lives?
I think it speaks greatly to the dedication of and the giving spirit of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. Again, annually I get the pleasure of presenting to my colleagues across the country on how we do as a province, and we're always 1 or 2. So I'm very proud to say that. And again, we have a fantastic team at Provincial Office and at our Corner Brook office that supports all of that activity and volunteer support, and indeed the instructors as well.
Right. Tell me about the therapy dog program.
Yeah, so one of our immensely popular programs, everybody loves to see the dogs, and so again we've grown and expanded that program. Traditionally we were in healthcare facilities, mostly with seniors, and taking our dogs to visit seniors' care homes. But over the last several years, we've grown. We've got about 94 dog teams now, and they visit universities, the Marine Institute during exam week to try and decrease the stress levels. We go to Choices for Youth, Stella Circle, any community event really that could benefit from a visit with a canine friendly visitor, and it really does. I mean, there's all kinds of studies now that show how much it decreases stress levels, lowers blood pressure. I mean, it's absolutely a truly amazing thing to see. We had this one gentleman who hadn't gotten out of bed, or really not much interaction, didn't speak very much, and 3 or 4 visits from one of our therapy dogs, and one of the nurses said, we can't believe the difference, and his family commented. So it was just such a touching event to be part of and to see, and that happens all the time now.
So it's really nice for you to be able to hear these stories and the difference that obviously programs like this are making within the community.
Absolutely. I absolutely love it when our volunteers are profiled, and because quite often they're very quiet in the background and they do their work quietly, especially our medical first responder volunteers. You wouldn't see them at Mile 1 Stadium unless someone gets a puck in the head and they need to be attended to. And then you see these dedicated volunteers in action and how they respond. And you would think they were paid professionals because they truly are trained to a very high level of care.
In terms of their actual training, or even if you want to touch on the medical, just the first aid, how much training is involved? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so they actually go through 40 hours of training, and they do all kinds of scenarios. And then every second week when they meet, because they meet as divisional groups, they would go through skill scenarios. So they actually have to demonstrate and practice their skills every 2 weeks. So once they've completed the course, they do skills training every other week. So they're either, you know, taking out the defibrillators and training on those, the training defibrillators, of course, you know, oxygen administration, CPR, always, you know, making sure that their techniques are, you know, very precise and their responses are professional and appropriate.
Tell me about the AEDs, because this is something that's, I guess, is fairly new. But how much of an impact can that make on somebody's life? I mean, it looks like we have one at our office, but we've seen or heard some stories of people's lives who have been saved, even here in this province.
Yeah, again, one of the nice things that we do every year is to profile people who have intervened and saved a life. And AEDs are everywhere now, thankfully, because 40,000 Canadians suffer cardiac arrest annually. And CPR, coupled with the use of an AED, can save so many lives. And as a matter of fact, we had 2 goalies actually who were at their, you know, hockey games last year, and they actually used defibrillators coupled with CPR to save lives. So we had a little fun with that, and we said, you know, they don't only save pucks, they can also save lives. But you know, Erin, these machines are so easy to use these days. So anybody really can use an AED, but it is important to be confident. And so the training that you receive can help you with that confidence to be able to actually use the defibrillator. And we work with community groups, individuals, workplaces to help them problem solve through what kind of defibrillator is the best defibrillator for my environment. My neighbor actually came and their church bought one, and then he said, you know, I've got a cottage, he said, and you know, it's in a rural setting. I think I'm going to buy one for the cottage, because he has quite, they do lots of social events. And then the other day, one of our board members said, you know, I have a history of cardiac arrest in my family. He said, I'm going to get one for home and make sure my wife knows what to do. So, you know, they're very prevalent, and people are not just having them in public areas or workplaces today. They're very, very, you know, cost efficient to have, and no one can put a price on saving a life, really.
That's true. You give out awards. I want you to tell me a little bit about that, because when we go back to talking about obviously just acknowledging people and recognizing them for the efforts that they've put forward in terms of helping to save people's lives.
Right. So one of the most beautiful events that I get the pleasure of being involved in every year, as do all of our staff and volunteers, is the awards ceremony. And we do, I mean, we give out awards to children as young as 6 years old who've intervened. You know, we had an event a couple of years ago that occurred in central Newfoundland, and a little bunch of little kids were sliding, and one of them had put a candy in and was choking on the candy, and his friend intervened and did the Heimlich maneuver and saved the little boy's life. I mean, he had no breath, he was starting to go unconscious. And so we give out awards to anybody. Anybody can do this. So, you know, then there's events where it can go on, the event can go on for quite some time. So again, on the Northern Peninsula a couple of years ago, grandmother and her son were her grandson, were hiking, and the grandson fell into this crevice, you know, and the grandmother, it's amazing what people will do. So she got him to a safe place and, you know, applied the right bandages and stopped the bleeding. And so we recognize people annually for that.
Okay. We have to clue things up here now, but I want to thank you, of course, very much for your time here today. But tell us, if anybody wants to get in touch with St. John Ambulance, if they'd like to find out more about the programs that you offer, if they'd like to sign up for training to buy an AED, how can they get in touch? Right. So they can call our 1-800 number, 1-800-801-0181, and our website is sja.ca, and then you can click to make sure that you're into the Newfoundland and Labrador site and get someone here on the ground that can talk to you. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for your time. You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. And And that was my conversation with the CEO of the Newfoundland and Labrador Council for St. John Ambulance, Glenda Janes. Hope you enjoyed, and we gave you some insight as to what happens within St. John Ambulance. If you would like to maybe sign up to become a volunteer with them or sign up for one of their courses on first aid or AED, we've got all that information as to how you can get in touch with them right after this short break. We'll be right back.
You know what I like? Keeping backs safe. Mine and my team's. And the best way to protect backs is to know how. Like when something's too heavy to be lifted by one person. Bring in that forklift!
I can.
I can.
I can.
I did. I took this picture of my wife when she was near death, waiting for a liver transplant. And this is her now.
Hello, I'm Lise Breckenridge. A liver transplant saved my life.
What can I say? You be the judge.
Your donation will help Canadians understand the importance of pledging to be an organ donor,
And it will help save the lives of so many more.
as it has for us.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
And welcome back to the show. Well, lots of information for you tonight on St. John Ambulance. If you would like to become a volunteer, maybe sign up for one of their courses or buy an AED, you can check out their website at sja.ca. You can also call 1-800-801-0181. And if you're, like everyone else these days, they are also on Twitter and Facebook. So lots of ways to get in touch. As we sign off this evening, we're going to leave you with some wonderful footage, some more from St. John Ambulance's therapy dog volunteers who are visiting Kenny's Pond. Enjoy. Have a wonderful evening. We'll see you again soon. Good night.
How about a paw?